Hey everyone, so I've been asked a few questions about the Module 3 end of Module 1 project and some of the formulas that are in there. So I thought I'd create a video walkthrough to kind of help. This is a spreadsheet you'll be working on. Now I didn't bring out the instructions, hopefully you have those with you, but we're just going to walk through this, and I may have to split this up into more than one video. For the project steps, in step number 1 in cell C5, we're to insert the now function to record the current date. And forgive me, in the instructions I skipped over the synopsis of the first part of step number 1, it tells you what you're doing, why you're doing what you're doing. But in cell C5, we're to enter in the now function. So I'll click on C5. You can get to this by going to the formulas tab. Under date and time, you'll find now. You can also type this in if you're familiar enough with the function. It is equals now, empty parentheses. If you use the formulas bar like I did, whoop, let me try that again. I dragged away from it and I messed up my formula. If you use the formulas bar like I did, you get this function arguments box. You'll click OK, and there's the current date. In the next one, each workday covers a period of 20 workdays. In cell C4, create a formula using the workday function to calculate the date 19 days from the start date. So if I go to date and time and we went to work day again, the start date is in cell C3 and we want 19 days from that. So we're just going to put 19 in the days and click OK. That's all there is to that. So in step number 3, we're asked to use Autofill to complete the labels in the table of hours. Use the values in the range A9 through A10, so this is week 1 and 2. And we're going to use the fill handle to fill that down, to extend the week numbers down through A11, A12. Because we've started a pattern here, 1, 2, Excel will if I use the autofill handle, which is in the lower right hand corner, when I fill that down, it'll auto-fill that pattern and keep going with 3, 4, and so on. Then we're to use the value in cell B8 to autofill the remaining weekday abbreviations in the range C8 to F8. So B8 is right here. This one doesn't even need to have a pattern like the 1 and 2 that we saw in the last one, because Monday is already recognized by Excel as a day of the week. When I fill this over using the autofill handle, it'll automatically fill in Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Okay, in step number 4, we're to add formulas to complete the table of hours used in cell B17. In cell B17, create a nested formula with an if and sum function that checks that the total number of hours worked in week 1 is equal to 0. If it is, the cell should display nothing. Otherwise, the cell should display the total number of hours worked in week 1. So I'm going to start in B17. We're going to do an if function. So if I go into lookup, logical if, we want to see if the sum, now this is a nested function, so I do have to write a function in here. I want to see if the sum of cells B9 through F9 is equal to 0. And if it is, I don't want to display anything, so just quote goes there. If it's not equal to 0, then it's going to do what the value of false is. In this case, we're going to sum again B9 through F9. Okay, so sum of B9 colon F9 equals 0, a double quote in the true, and the sum of B9 through F9 again for the value if false, and then we'll click OK. It gives me the number, and then I can use the fill handle to pull that down. Now none of these will read blank because there are no, if you look at the hours worked, nobody adds up to 0. And so that's why you're getting calculations for all these. But if you had someone that did add up to 0, it would show a blank cell. So now we're moving on to cell H2 for step number 5. In H2, we're to create a formula using the Workday function to calculate the date 5 days after the period end date in C4. So I'm gonna do H2 right here. This is again gonna be that Workday function. And we want the start date of C4, and we were told 5 days after that. Okay, so there's that date. In step number 6, we're to create a lookup function to complete the summary section in cell I6, right here, I6. We're going to create a formula using the Vlookup function to display the number of hours worked in the selected week. Look up the week number in cell I5 in the range A17 to G20 and return the value in the second column. Use absolute references for cell I5 and the range A17 to G20. So this is Vlookup. This is lookup and reference. Vlookup stands for vertical lookup. Right? We are looking up the value in cell A17 to G20. So A17 to G20. And we're going to make that absolute. So I'm just going to hit the function 4 key, the F4 key on the keyboard. That makes it absolute by putting dollar signs around everything. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm jumping the gun here. That's the table array. That goes in the next one. So let's delete that. We should actually, we're looking up I5. Right? I5. And we're going to make that one absolute. So make that one absolute. Then we're going to do the table array A17 to G20. So A17 to G20. We're going to make that one absolute as well by hitting the F4. So I5, A17 to G20, and we want to return the value that is in column 2. All right. So once you have that in there, we can click OK. The last part is not required on this one, so we're okay there. And it returns a 28 because it's looking up week 1, and then you can see that it's returning a 28. I'm just going to show you what happens as you return these. So if I were to put in week 3 in cell A5, you can see now it returns a 32. So it makes it so as you change that summary week, it gives me the proper results in the worked cell. All right, so we're going to fill in 7. We copy the formula in cell I6 to range I7 through I11. All right, so I'm going to fill this down to here, just to I11, and then edit the formula in cell I7 to return the 3rd column, the formula in I8 to return the 4th column, and so on. So what they're asking us is now this one right here, cell I7. We're going to change, and I'm just going to go up to my formula bar right here and change that 2 to a 3. Right? In the next one, I'm going to change that 2 to a 4. And I'm just hitting enter as I go down through these. This next one, that 2 is going to be a 5. And then on the last one, that 2 is going to be a 6. So you can see what it's returning here. On this first one, it returns the 2nd column. On this one, it returns the 3rd column. This one, it returns the 4th column, which are both 0. They're empty. Then we get the 10 from the, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th, and then the 2 from the 6th column. All right, now I'm not sure if I'm missing it, but I thought we were supposed to go into totals. We'll go finish total if for some reason it doesn't. This does say just to go to, oh no, it does say to go to 11, so I didn't copy it all the way down. So I want to pull that down one more, and then this 6 becomes a 7 on that last one. I'm sorry, I was missing, I didn't go down far enough as I filled that down. Okay, so all I did was come up to the one before, fill that down, and then on that last one, I'm going to change that last number to a 7. All right. So I'm just going to, I know this video is already 10 minutes in length, but I'm going to continue on just because we're getting close to the end of this already, and I hate to create a whole nother video for this. So we're just going to continue. I'm on step number 8 at this point. We're to add formulas to complete the balance section in cell K8. So K8 is right here. In K8, we're to create a formula using the sum function that calculates the total of the range D17 to D20 and subtracts it from J8. So when I get something like this, my thing to do is to, and I guess I could have stayed on the formula bar, auto sum, right? And then go ahead and tell it what I want to auto sum. I actually want to auto sum D17 to D20, right? And that fills that in. But then I'm going to modify. So once I get in my sum D17 to D20, I would just go in and modify this. So then I'm going to take that, and that needs to be subtracted from J9. So I'll just type in J9 minus at the beginning of that, and that's what we're looking for in that one. Or J8, excuse me. I'm misreading these instructions so much, I apologize. That's J8 minus the sum of D17 to D20. All right, in the next one, in cell K9, create the formula using the sum function that calculates the total of the range E17 to E20 and subtracts it from J9. That's where I was getting my J9 from. So same thing, if you like using the auto sum tool where you could just click on sum and then highlight what you want to add, in this case, E17 to E20, and then just modify from there. And this is where G9 minus goes. And now you have that one. Step number 10, in cell K10, create a formula using the sum function that calculates the total of the range F17 to F20. Okay, so this has got a lot involved here. So we're going to go ahead and start by using this tool because it just makes it an easy way to start. So sum function that calculates the total of F17 to F20. Right, and we're going to subtract that from J10. So I'll go ahead and come right after the equal sign, J10 minus the sum of F17 to F20. And then adds the total range of G17 to G20. Now, because I'm already in the middle of a formula, I can't use any of the tools on the formula bar. I would have to type this in. So I'm going to just hit the plus sign. And then this one is going to be sum of G17 to G20. All right, make sure you put that closing parenthesis on there because we're not done yet. And then we have to subtract 160. So there is the formula. I'm going to show these formulas all to you here in a minute. So I'm just going to move forward, and then at the very end, I'll view formulas so that you can see all of those. So we're to copy the formula in cell J11 to K11. So I'm going to just do a copy and a paste. And it does modify the cell values as you do that so they don't get the same result, which is exactly what we want. Okay, in step number 12, in cell J12, we're to create a formula using the average function that calculates the average of the range B9 to F12. So this is where we're going to do average. Now, average is kind of hidden away. They create all these categories, but for some reason you'll find more of them under more functions and then statistical. So I'm not sure why statistical isn't pulled out since it's one of the more common ones, but there is where you'll find average. You'll also find it on the home ribbon, and you should find it here as well. Lots of different places to get it. And we're averaging B9 through F12. So B9 through F12. right? In cell J17, we are to create a formula using the max function that returns the maximum value of B9 through F12. So again, these would be under more functions and statistical, but because they're so commonly used, they're also under this auto sum. So this one is going to be the max B9 through F12, and then one more time for min B9 through F12. And that's it. That takes you through all the steps. Now I'm going to do this really quick. I'm going to show formulas. And let me see if I can fit everything on one screen pretty nicely here. Let's see what we could do. There's a shot of all the formulas that are in here. You can pause this video at this time and compare your formulas and see if you have everything as it should be. This is what you're submitting, and hopefully I've helped a little bit in explaining all the functions. Whenever you're doing functions like this, I think the hardest part is translating the wording in the question, what they're trying to ask you and what the formula should look like. So if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email, let me know. I hope this video helps.